Welcome everybody to Rooftop Talks. I'm your host, Kiana, and today we have a special guest. We have Isaac B. Horton, the fourth, co-owner of both Oak City Fish and Chips and the Green Blue Marketplace. Thank you so much, Isaac, for being here with us today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So there's so much information that everything that you have going on, I just want to go ahead and dive right into it.
Okay.
So let's talk about Oak City Fish and Chips and where you are as far as expanding. We know you've done a lot of amazing things in the city with Oak City Fish and Chips already. We know it's the first Black-owned seafood franchise in the country. Am I right?
That's right.
And so you've been doing amazing already in Raleigh. And just what is the plans for Oak City Fish and Chips?
So the plans for Oak City Fish and Chips is to expand regionally first. We just got our documents back from the Federal Trade Commission. Allows us to expand immediately into any state that is not an opt-in state that requires you to file specifically for that state to launch a franchise business. We've also received our documents back from the state of North Carolina, which is an opt-in state, so we had to apply specifically for North Carolina to be able to have franchises. And we're going to offer franchises in both the brick and mortar and the mobile food unit space. And we also will have a limited third option for special events, like a circuit of special events. For example, Dreamville, Coachella, Made in America. Someone can have a food truck franchise that travels to different events versus kind of like Raleigh, where we do a series of events just in the Raleigh-Durham area.
Are you planning on going international?
I'm open to going international. When I was vacationing in Antigua, I saw that they had a KFC and made me think about what it would be like if I had a Oak City Fish and Chips.
Oh yeah, they got them everywhere.
Yeah.
So I mean, your food is amazing. I do want to let you know that I wouldn't feel right doing this interview if I didn't try the lobster pop. So I tried the lobster pop. It was amazing, and I'm going to try the rest of the food, but I think having that internationally would be amazing. But now I want to take it back to, I think it was 2011 when you had when you took your trip to Nicaragua. Was that in 2011?
Yeah, 2011. Yeah.
So can you tell us about, because ultimately what you saw on top of your dream is what inspired you to open up Oak City Fish and Chips, so that you can open up the Green Blue Marketplace. So can you just tell us about that experience?
Yeah, so in 2011, right after undergraduate school, when I just finished my degree in my Bachelor's of Science in Economics, I had a part-time job at Best Buy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I met a customer, and we had a great interaction, and he said that he was inspired to take me with him on a mission trip to Nicaragua. He was going with his church. He had an organization that focused on feeding kids in third world countries. Simultaneously, I happened to be on a 40-day fast, and the last 4 days of my fast happened to be the last 4 days of the trip, of the mission trip. So we flew down in a small plane to Nicaragua, and it'd be the first time I had seen, someone who had starved to death from hunger. Malnutrition was rampant there, and it was something that kind of altered my perspective, and just kind of stirred me up. And it was something that you never forget. And so when I got back to the States, I began to kind of look at the world's food problem. And try to get a better grasp and a better understanding of what's causing the gross inequalities in the world as it pertains to food system and food system paradigms. And I made a discovery that we were on the brink of a dawn of a new age, where we were going to experience some huge shifts in agriculture. That's what I learned. And my missions trip inspired me to get into food, but when I was 23, 24 years old, I didn't have $3 million to launch my own hydroponic farm. My research had showed that hydroponics was the future. Now we see in the modern day, in the past 3 years, 10 of the world's top billionaires have all invested into the hydroponic space. Elon Musk is calling hydroponics a new internet.
Yeah.
And so it was very interesting 11 years ago to have an experience that inspired me to be into food and to get into food. I came in humbly through food service with my ultimate goal to have Oak City Fish and Chips be the lemonade stand to my hydroponic business.
In which it has, and because you started already working towards your Green Blue Marketplace, just putting it all together, which is amazing, by the way. And you were telling me that it's set to feed 10,000 people in 1 week, correct?
Each of our facilities for the Green Blue Marketplace are designed to feed 10,000 people with fresh produce.
And this is per week or from?
Every day.
Every day? 10,000?
Yeah, so it's a year supply of fruits and vegetables. Yeah.
So I would love if you could tell the audience a little bit about you have so many things that Green Blue Marketplace offers besides fresh vegetables, fruits, and just herbs. So I would love for you to talk about just the plans and what people can expect.
So sure. Right now, if you think about the evolution of food as it pertains to people, we started off as hunter-gatherers. We moved into the agricultural age. Then industrial farming occurred after the creation of the assembly line. And now farming has gotten to the point where it is totally disconnected from the people that it produces food for. Walmart did a study that if an apple is sold for $1, that the farmer gets 7 cents. The retailer gets 20 cents, and the distribution system gets about 73 cents.
Wow.
So the majority of the money goes towards getting the food here. Simultaneously, because the food is so far away, 50% of our food comes from overseas. We only have about 4 agricultural states left in the United States. And that 50% of the food travels through 14 critical choke points. That if one of these choke points tightens up, like the Panama Canal, for example, we saw a couple of years ago, it could have devastating effects on the food system here. So the Green Blue Marketplace, over the past 10 years since that mission trip, I began to work with my father, Dr. Isaac B. Horton III, and we began to create a business model that sidesteps all the world's problems to create what we call true food security. Not just the availability of food, but the accessibility of food by it being affordable and also nutrient dense. The Green Blue Marketplace positions itself to be a domestic food supplier, avoiding those 14 critical international choke points. Simultaneously, the Green Blue Marketplace utilizes hydroponic technology. So vertically integrated hydroponic farming is the growing method that we use to produce what is super organic produce. Super organic produce is differentiated from organic produce in that organic produce doesn't use pesticides, fungicides, or herbicides, but super organic produce uses no pesticides, no fungicides, no herbicides, and also non-toxic H2O is used in the growing process. And what most people don't know is that 85% of the fruits and vegetables are irrigated from the aquifer, and that water is not regulated by the EPA. So like, for example, in eastern North Carolina, the aquifer is polluted with hog waste, chicken waste, turkey waste. In this area of the state, the Piedmont region, is polluted with coal ash from the power plants. And so while you wouldn't go in your backyard and drink from the river or stream, you are every time you eat a fruit or vegetable, because the average fruit or vegetable is 65 to 95% water. And oh, by the way, when the plant absorbs a molecule of water, it restructures it and turns it into a smart molecule. And it's absorbed in your cells twice as fast as if you were to drink a glass of water. So we use hydroponic technology, and then we use the technology and we built a small version of a big hydroponic facility, which allows us to grow what we consider ultra hyper local. Local definition is within 500 miles. So DC could be local, or Atlanta could be local. Our definition of ultra hyper local is grown in the neighborhood within a 5 to 10 mile radius. So that allows us to produce the highest quality super organic produce and deliver it to people within what we call 72 hours of the pick date. Not the expiration date, but the pick date. Because what we also found during the 4 years of research and development that we did from 2016 to 2020 is that the phytonutrients, these are smaller molecules in the plants, things measured in nanograms. It's like the medicine in the plant, and these phytonutrients, they leave within 48 to 72 hours, many of them after the fruit or vegetable is picked.
Okay.
So if your fruits or vegetable aren't, eaten fresh, you're losing a significant amount of the nutrient composition of that produce.
So my understanding is 1 acre of hydroponic community farming is equivalent to like 300 to 400 acres?
Yeah, because we grow upward and not outward. So it optimizes space and also optimizes water. One of our hydroponic farms or a Green Blue Marketplace only uses about the same amount of water that a 4,000 square foot house uses.
Oh, wow.
To grow enough food for 10,000 people.
That's amazing. So that's very interesting, because just the pick date versus the expiration date, and just going to the store, you really have to go to the best stores in order to get the best fruits and vegetables. And that's something that I'm noticing, is that things aren't as fresh as they were. And so that's very important. I'm super excited about that. Now, let's talk about food insecurity in Wake County. There's roughly 1.1 million people in Wake County, and 12% of those people experience food insecurity. So how many, or how large would the Green Blue Marketplace have to be in order to not have any food security at all in Wake County?
So, when we spoke to when I met with the county manager and I met with the mayor, one of the things that we're excited about doing with the Green Blue Marketplace is offering food security contingency plans for municipalities and counties.
How does that work?
And so we have a program that we are developing where a city can adopt certain principles that allow it to become what we call a green blue city.
Oh, and can you go into what the green and blue actually means?
Sure.
Because that's
So
very powerful.
in our model, the green stands for sustainability, and the blue is for health and longevity. And so we built a lot of the scientific structure of our business in reference to what we encourage the members of the Green Blue Marketplace to follow, based around a study called the Blue Zone Study. And the Blue Zone Study was places where the average person that lives in these areas lives to be over 100 years of age. It says study of centenarians, where we get the word century from. And so there were 4 key principles that connected all these places that were spread out geographically across the globe, but they all had 4 things in common, and that's that these people ate 80% fresh fruits and vegetables, 20% other. They participated in a lifestyle that allowed them to have regular body set, so they were active. Maybe they didn't go to the gym 6 days a week and lift weights, but something about their contribution to their community kept them physically active. They did not have a lot of toxicity in their life. Their water supply was relatively pure. They didn't consume processed or chemical-based foods. And the 4th thing was that they participated in a community that had a mindset of longevity, meaning that their culture created a community mindset where everyone believed that they would live to be over 100 years of age. They would live a long, healthy life.
So the Green Blue Marketplace could potentially increase life expectancy around...
But that's one of the goals of the Green Blue Marketplace. Through regulating your diet, the new study of epigenetics demonstrates that your genes no longer determine the future of your health. It was once thought that if your great-grandmother had diabetes and your grandmother had diabetes and your mom had diabetes, that you would have diabetes as well. But epigenetics has demonstrated that your genes will change based on what you eat. The phytonutrients in fresh fruits and vegetables will cause certain genes to express themselves and certain genes not to express themselves. And that is regulated by diet. Things like your capacity to remember, your ability to process information, these things are all regulated by diet. They can be enhanced by diet, and they also can be reduced in their performance based on diet as well. So one of the goals is to increase life expectancy. Particularly, that's why we started off launching our first community garden in Southeast Raleigh. Southeast Raleigh, the average person lives 10 years less than people in the other 3 quadrants of the city.
Do we have a date or a month in mind when we...
We're thinking, hopefully, it's the first of its kind. Our hydroponic community garden will be the first hydroponic community garden in the state.
Yeah.
And so pioneering it means that we're the first, and it is, while it is cool to be the first at something, you're the guinea pig.
Yeah.
So, in terms of inspections, building permits, zoning, the city and the county has literally had to create certain designations for this project because it's so unique. So we're hoping to maybe do a ribbon cutting in late March, early April.
Okay,
So
that's
springtime.
soon.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
springtime. Yep.
So let me ask you, because a lot of people say that mixing family and friends with business is not the best for business. However, you have both your brother and your father on your team, and it seems like it's working amazingly. Can you talk about a little bit more of the dynamic and just kind of like how family can be a great dynamic for a business if everybody's like-minded?
Yeah, sure, exactly. And I think that's where it starts, is like-mindedness. And so we're a purpose-driven family. We believe that we have a purpose to help our local community and ultimately the world. My dad is actually one of the world's foremost experts in intellectual property. He has over 130 patents that he's been issued. He's never been denied a patent. And his patents all deal in humanistic technology, things that help people. So whether it be increasing the quality of our water, creating technology that allows us to optimize the power that we use. So the Green Blue Marketplace was very organic for us because it dealt with a lot of my dad's expertise. As one of the world's first drug designers, having a degree in synthetic organic chemistry of natural products, my dad was one of the first drug designers in the world when no other drugs had been designed before. And by trade, he's a medicinal chemist, so he understands plants very well. So our partnership has been very congenial. And my expertise in food and in retail allowed a great platform and our fertile soil, I'd say, and us creating this business model together. I learned a lot from my dad. He's been my biggest teacher. I didn't go to graduate school and get an MBA. I learned business from my dad. Through his direct wisdom and teaching, and a lot through osmosis, being the kid in the room, listening to those phone calls.
Doing some research on your father, he definitely has that experience that you really need for this type of business. I mean, I was looking into him. He worked for the DuPont family, worked with different energy companies internationally, just so many different things. So I think it's amazing that you have that access to knowledge right at your hands. So I would definitely want to talk about, since you did have that experience and you had a little bit more knowledge about business than most entrepreneurs starting up, what is something that you would say that you would have to learn just like everybody else?
What is something that I feel like I've had to learn just like someone else. Well, there's different types of knowledge. There's theoretical, and then there's experiential. I think that I've learned a lot of experiential knowledge through my interaction with government agencies and bureaucrats. That is something that you can be taught, in theory, but until you interact with it. So, as a Black entrepreneur, I'd say that I've had to fight extremely hard in the food service industry locally here. That's something that I had to learn like everybody else.
Yeah.
I've had to sue health departments. I've had to sue other small businesses that are supposed to be performing certain services for my company, specifically Oak City Fish and Chips. So that type of entrepreneurial defense, I'd say, is something that I had to learn like everybody else.
What is something new that you had to learn? Now, there's a lot. You would think that it's the same question as the previous, but you've learned just at a young age how to start a business. At 7 years old, you're mowing lawns, you're hiring your friends, you're buying new lawnmowers. Then in middle school, you're cleaning medical facilities. In high school, you're throwing parties to the point where you can pay for college and start up Oak City Fish and Chips. So one would say that you already have the experience as far as starting a business, marketing, scaling. So what would you say specifically you had to learn new?
Franchising.
Okay.
Right. When I first started, I was starting several small businesses, and I got a food truck, and I thought to myself it would be an excellent opportunity to create some jobs for friends. I had no culinary background, and I got in there and created a menu. I created our proprietary spice blends. We began to operate in the community, and I began to see that it was something that I could grow. Mm-hmm. And I was in Miami hanging out with a friend of mine who had just retired from the NFL. And I was sitting at the bar at a hotel, and the woman sitting beside me, who was very friendly and vociferous with really everyone around, turned her attention to me and started asking me questions. And come to find out, she was down in Miami speaking on a panel for franchising. It's a franchising convention, and she was speaking alongside of Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank.
Oh, wow.
Simultaneously at that time, I was a finalist for Shark Tank. I had a signed participation agreement with Sony Production Studios, and she found out a little bit more about what we were doing, and her boss flew in to North Carolina and checked out what we had going on, and this was in 2018, and thought that our business model was prime for franchising. So, to be honest, I never really thought about franchising, and I began to look into franchising to see what it would take. And over the past few years, COVID was a big delay because I was planning on franchising sooner than that, but we thought it best, my partner and I, to take a step back and to sit to see how the dust would settle. And now we're crossing that bridge now, but franchising was something that I had to learn from scratch.
And it was franchising an avenue so that you can scale your business faster, so that you can support a green blue marketplace faster, or you just thought maybe it'd be cool to franchise?
Well, I mean, my ultimate goal with Oak City Fish and Chips is my exit strategy is to sell the company for $50 to $100 million. Then I want to, use that money to contribute towards, creating international food security. So, like I said earlier, my lemonade stand to my passion.
And I think that's amazing. But it all started with a dream, as far as like the ultimate goal. You had a dream that, I'll let you tell you.
Yeah, it was a literal dream. Yeah. So maybe a year after I got back from Nicaragua, and I was kind of really into the researching food and studying the food system, I had a dream, and in that dream, it was reminiscent to a memory that I had with my grandfather. Mm-hmm. I remember when I was a little kid, sitting on my grandfather's lap, talking to him, and my grandfather was born in 1914.
Oh, wow.
And he was telling me about when he was a kid, how people If you had a little money, you rode horse and buggy. No one had a car. Very few people had a car. And but most black people, we didn't have horse and buggy. We walked. And being a kid that was born in the late '80s, I couldn't really imagine a time where everyone didn't have a car. And in that dream I had, one night, my grandson was sitting on my lap. And he looked up at me and he said, "Granddad, you mean to tell me that when you guys were growing up, you guys used to pour your water out in dirt?" And that was a dream. It was vivid. I'll never forget it. And I didn't really understand what it meant. But as I began to do more research, I began to see that water was going to become one of the most, and it already is one of the most precious resources, but that over the next 30 years, water would become very, very extremely limited and under strain. So much so that someone who was 5 or 6 years old in the year 2050 or 2055, when I would have a grandchild, couldn't fathom a time where we use irrigation, which is pouring your water out in the dirt, or taking an hour shower, or leaving the water running for 5 minutes while you brush your teeth, right? Already we see in the third world that a gallon of water costs more than a gallon of gasoline. We saw water be added to the stock exchange as a commodity. It's publicly traded. So water is something that is going to become increasingly more precious every single year for the next 30, 40 years.
I think a lot of people, especially in the United States, we have resources so ready and available that sometimes it's difficult to see. I'm German, so I'm also Romanian, so when I would go back and visit to Romania, I couldn't take long showers. You had to turn the water on for like 20 seconds, put some soap on, turn it off, then turn it back on, rinse the soap off. You might do another one just because whatever. But as far as drinking and just eat, you really have to like go through a process in order to get that water. And I definitely understand what you mean with the just water being so in the future that it might not be as accessible as it is now. So I think what you're doing with Green Blue Marketplace is amazing. I look forward to it. I'm gonna be one of the first people there because I really want some fresh fruits and vegetables. Isaac, thank you so much for taking your time out to be on our show today. And thank you guys so much for tuning into Rooftop Talks. And make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you for the next one.